Live. Just to check if this is working. Is it waiting? Is it live? Hello, everyone. I'm going to start the presentation right now. My name is David. I come from ComfortClick. I would like to welcome you to our third webinar. In this webinar, I'm going to present to you 3 of our very powerful and useful drivers that we support. The first driver is going to be our ZWave driver. The second one is going to be our Modbus. And the third one is going to be our new and very exciting driver that we support, which is Amazon Alexa or Amazon Echo. So the driver we're going to look at is going to be our ZWave. So to add your ZWave driver into your configuration, simply go to Devices and click Add, select your ZWave, and you'll be able to see the screen that I'm showing you right now, which is going to be our main ZWave screen. On the upper side, you'll be able to see all your ZWave information that you need, which is going to be, if it's enabled, make sure that your connection port is set correctly to make a proper connection to your controller. And on the bottom side, you'll be able to see all the list of your devices. As you can see, I already included a couple of devices prior to this webinar, so it's going to be a little bit easier to show. First off, before you start adding your devices to your ZWave controller, it is highly recommended or needed for you to read the manual of the device. So just so you know how to import, how to export the device to your controller, because every device has a different button pattern that you need to press for inclusion, for exclusion, and of course to wake up the device. So you'll be able to see all the devices here listed. We have additional options and you can choose from the ZWave controller. If I press the discovery button, we'll be able to see all the controllers that are all the devices that are added to the controller. If I use the inclusion button, of course, I'll be able to include the device. Same goes for the exclusion. Under controller tab, we are able to see additional functions and additional settings for our controller. Settings tab will basically expand your currently selected device, and we'll be able to see additional settings. And you can also, of course, rename and delete the device. So before you start including your ZWave device into your controller, it is highly recommended for you to first exclude the device, because the device could be connected to any other controller before you start importing it into yours. I'm currently using a simple multi-sensor device. And if I press the exclusion button and the exclude button on the device, you're able to see that I removed or I excluded the device from my ZWave configuration. This would also happen if the device was connected to any other controller, so there is not any mix-up if you import this device to your current controller. So to import the device, simply go to inclusion button. You're able to see now that we are in an inclusion. In the inclusion part, we're waiting for the device to be pressed the inclusion button. So if I press the inclusion button on the device, I'm able to see the device has been imported in my configuration, and we're able to see it here. And if I press settings button on the device, I'm able to see all the information that is needed for the device. So under our general tab, we're able to see what's the name of the device, what kind of brand it is, which frequency it uses, and a short description for the device itself. Like I said, I'm using a simple multi-sensor device at the moment. A very important tab is our association group. So this is highly recommended for you to read the manual, so you will know what kind of device or which device goes into each group, because every device sends its values to different groups. In this case, I only have group 1. So I'm going to have to add my controller into this association group. So I'm going to press button set and select my controller. So once the connection is established, the device is going to send all its values, all this movement detection, a temperature sensor, everything is going to be sent to our controller, and we can then use these values to manipulate and control other devices. Our very important tab is, of course, our parameters tab. Here you'll be able to see all the parameters the device can offer you. You can see we have a variety of different parameters here. So we can change the thresholds, we can change the sensor, we can calibrate, we can change different limits. And if you want to set up the device, you want to configure the device, we can change all these values here. If we want additional information for each parameter, we can of course double click and select the parameter we want to change, or if we want additional information. So let's say I want to change this PR time here. We can currently see that the value is 240. These values are in seconds. So if I double click now, I'm able to see the additional information that is added, additional description of this parameter itself. I see, as you can see, it's now at 4 minutes. Let's say I want to change this to 10 seconds. So now, since I've changed this to 10 seconds, the device is gonna sense a movement around the device for 10 seconds. And if there's gonna be a movement there, the device is gonna send us a true value. So there's actually going on something in that place. We can also change the sensitivity of our motion sensor. We can clearly see that the value is 5, which basically don't know what that is. We can double click and see that the value 5 is our maximum level of sensitivity. Let's just dial that down a little bit so the sensor is not going to be as sensitive as that. So I change that value to 1. Once everything is changed and you're happy with your configuration of the device, you simply click on set at the top, and these parameters are going to be set at the device, and the device is going to be configured just the way you want it. So next tab is going to be our wake up interval. This is of course just to wake up the device if there's nothing going on with it. Basically very simple. But the last tab is our very important one. As you can see, it's our info tab, and here we have basically every information that you'll need about the device. We can see the picture of the device, we can see all the information that you need about the device, and most importantly, you can also find a manufacturer provided product manual. So basically you can download the manual here and scroll through it and see how the device is configured, how to set your association groups, how to change your parameters, and what each parameter does. So this is highly recommended for you to read before even start to configure any device using our ZWave. So now, since we configured our motion sensor, we're going to use that motion sensor to trigger a KNX device. In this case, we're going to simply add a simple KNX lamp into our configuration. So I'm going under KNX. I'm going to choose this 1 bit and name this light 1. So we now just created a simple KNX variable light. We can actually also put a address to it, and let's change a status address as well, just for the sake of this configuration. And now we want to trigger this light when motion is detected. So I'm going to create a simple program task. Let's call it sensor light. So we know, so there won't be any mix-ups if we create any other task or program tasks. Now we're gonna set up my trigger. So here we need to ask ourselves, when do we want to trigger this our motion sensor? So if I go under basic, then I select that every time the status changes. So every time the status changes value, we want to trigger our light. So the status changes. Now we need to ask ourselves if the movement is true. So we basically just quickly select if the base status is true. Then we want to set value of our light to true. So now, once the motion sensor is going to detect a movement, it's going to turn on our KNX device, in this case, our KNX light. So if there is not going to be any movement, of course, we want to turn off that light. So I'm just going to simply create another. I'm going to ask if there is no movement. So movement is set to false. We want to set value of our KNX lamp to false. So once we receive a movement, the light will be turned on. And once there's no movement, the light will turn off. Just as simple as that. We added a simple program task, and our device is connected, and the light should turn on. We also have another device import it into configuration, which is going to be our simple Fibaro button. If I could go under Info tab, then I can actually see how the button looks. It's basically a very simple button. You press it and you trigger parameters. You can trigger, you can turn on lights, you can do whatever you want. And if I go under parameters, then I can see what happens if the button is pressed. So if the button is pressed one time, it's going to send to our second association group, it's going to send a value of 255. So if I go under association groups and under group 2, my controller should be here. I already did this, so the device is going to send the 255 value to our controller. And we can actually use these different values here to control different devices in our configuration. Perhaps, so for instance, we can use this value 255 and button pressed once to control one light, but I can also press the button 2 times and this will send a value of 99. So they can basically control a different device using that value. I can also see here that this is a command value 3, and if I double press it and open up, I can see the description what happens if the value is 3. So the value will alternate between 255 and 0. So now we know we have 3 values, and you can use those 3 values to control all lights. So if I press the button once, we're going to send 255. If I press it one more time, it's gonna send a value 0. But if I double press, it's going to send a value of 99. So we can basically use those 3 values to control different devices in our system. So I'm going to add another light. I could just actually create a copy. Name this to light 2. Let's change simply to different address. So it's actually going to be a different lamp. We can create another program task. Let's call this button light. And again, we're gonna ask ourselves when do we want this program to be triggered, and every time the button is pressed, so every time the value changes. We can also use the status here. So every time the button is pressed, something is going to happen, and what is going to happen, we're gonna add it here. So if our value is 255, so the button is pressed once, we want to turn our light 1 on. So we're going to go set value to light 1 and set this to true. So now the button is pressed once and the light is turned on. Now if we press button one more time, it's going to send value of 0. So we're going to ask ourselves is if the value is 0, we want to turn off this light. So we press it once, we turn it off, press it again, it turns it off. So we set the value of our light 1 to false. Now we can also use our double click. So if you remember, if I go back to our controller, into parameters, if I press 2 times, it's going to send value of 99. So now we can also use this and ask if the value is 99. We can turn our second lamp on. Set value of our second lamp and turn this lamp on. So basically now you see that you can use our ZWave driver, ZWave devices to control even KNX devices, and you can see that you can use one simple button to control multiple devices. It's just as simple as that. You just need to look at all the parameters that the device is sending, and you can manipulate them and use those parameters to change your configuration and to change and to manipulate your building, your lights, and so on. So this is going to be our ZWave driver. Our next driver that I'm going to be showing today is going to be our Modbus driver. So before you start to configure your Modbus device using our bOS, is this highly recommended, or is it even necessary for you to read the manual of the device? So I actually have a simple manual ready here. It's just a simple manual for a residential units, because we will need all the addresses that device is sending to our configuration, but then without the manual we won't be able to know what the device is actually sending. So just going to show you here. We're going to add a couple of devices, a couple of addresses, and show them how to import them and use them using our Modbus driver. So if I open the manual and see that, let's say I want to add this fan speed level. So I want to add this fan speed. Of course, I need my manual to import this. I'm going to use, since this is a simple fan speed device, I'm going to go to Modbus and I'm going to add a integer and I'm going to name it fan speed. And so my integer opens up, and I can see that I have multiple things that I can configure here. I can configure our slave address. So this is if I have multiple devices. So the Modbus will send the correct values to each device. And of course, I need to enter my address of this fan speed. As you can see here under registers, we can see that their address is 101. So I must link this correctly and say this is 101. Since this is a read and write, has a read and write value, we're gonna use our holding registers, which is already selected. And this is a fairly simple fan speed address. We're gonna use our unsigned 16-bit. So this is basically everything you need to know when adding a simple register into Modbus. I'm going to add a couple more variables so you know exactly how this goes. Let's say I want to add a fan speed for low speed, and I'm gonna add another integer, and let's say fan low speed, and see that the address is 102. We change the address here, 102. And now we can see that this address has only a read value here. So we need to change our Modbus table from holding to input registers. And that is basically it, how to control this fan at low speed address. As simple as that. It gets a little bit more complicated once we get to, let's say, temperatures. Temperatures, of course, are very important using these kind of devices. And you can see that we have a temperature set point here. The address is 208. And we all know that the temperatures are usually contain a decimal point. So in this case, the integer is not going to be a correct device to use. So we're going to use our double here. And we're going to use we're going to name it temperature set point. And we go through the whole procedure. So let's say the address is 208 and it's only read. We just change the address to 208 and it's only reading. So we can change this to input, and we can change this data table to, say, signed 16-bit. We need to take it when using this temperature set point, we need to take in consideration our scale factor. So if we go back to our scaling, we can then see that the scaling is 1. And we have the correct settings here. The problem would be if the scaling factor would be, let's say, 10, and we would use 1, and we would perhaps get a temperature of, let's say, 25.5 degrees, and our scaling factor will be incorrect here. We would get a different value on our Modbus device, which would be, I don't know, 255, which is, of course, incorrect. So a scaling factor must be taken into consideration when importing and using temperatures. And I'm going to show you a fairly simple example and how to use our Modbus and how to add it into your visualization. So we'll have an error message displaying if there's something wrong on our Modbus device. I'm going to simply add an integer and call it errors, let's say. Errors. Let's give this one a address. And let's put it in an unsigned bit 16. So let's say that we have an 8-bit value, and each of those bits is sending us a different error message. So in this case, we can use our task manager and go to our bit converter. In our bit converter, we import our errors, so we know which value we want to look at. And now if we go under values, here we'll be able to see all the bits that are in that in this error address. I'm going to change this to set point. So let's say there's going to be the Modbus device is going to send us there's something wrong on bit 0 and I don't know 2. We want to see this in our visualization. So in this case, I can simply drag and drop our bit converter here, select our bit, let's say bit 0, and say the text is going to be fan error. And now every time something is going to be wrong on the on that address of our Modbus device, we're going to actually see here displaying a fan error. Let's say we're also going to add a, let's say, bit 2, and this say temperature error. And I'm simply going to drag and drop our errors as well. So I'm just going to change them, and we can see live results. So here we can see we have our Modbus device running. Everything's working correctly, and then Modbus will tell us there's something wrong on bit 1, and we can see on the top the fan error displays. There's something wrong with the fans, and here we have a simple and very fast way to display all this error that are going on using your Modbus using that current Modbus device. Even multiple errors can be displayed, as many as you want, as long as you simply drag this converter into your visualization. So our last but not least driver for today is going to be our Alexa driver. So to find your Alexa driver, we need to go under our... Oh, yeah, she's already listening. Alexa, stop talking. I have my device near me, so she's hearing all the time as she's listening. So we go under our general, then we go under API, and we select her. I'm not going to say her name, so she won't be turned on again. And then we add our appliances, and now we add our list of all of the devices that we want to control. So let's say we want to control appliance, and let's call it a light. When this is added, when we can see, we can choose from different types of references. In this case, this is going to be a simple light. We want to use our on and off reference. If this was a door, we can then, of course, use door. If this was a shader or a dimmer, then we can use our percentage reference. But in this case, of course, we're going to use our on and off reference, and we're going to simply create a simple light. Change the template of the light. So it's going to be a lamp. And now we link this lamp into our see devices on and off light. There we go. Value. We add our live, and one very important thing is we need to name our device. So Alexa will know which device we're actually calling to. So we're calling a light. And now she will know that we're calling the light, and once we say the correct word, the command is going to be triggered. Once the light is connected and linked, we must then go to alexa.amazon.com. She's listening again. Stop listening. You see the light blinking. Log in with your account. Here we then go under Smart Home, and then we need to first enable our skill. We go to Enable Skills, and here we find our skill, which is ComfortClick. There we go, and we enable it. Then you log in with your ComfortClick account. Simply click on Login. Here you select your current controller that you're using, your group name, and click on Grant. And this will grant access to your controller. This will grant her access to your controller. We can then go to Smart Home and select our devices. And first we need to discover our devices. So she's going to try to find all the devices that are compatible with her, and she will list all the devices here. Takes a couple of seconds for her to find all the devices. And here you can see we have all the devices listed. We also have a couple of Hue devices, and you can see our light device has already been imported into her. So now I can also simply drag this light into our configuration, turn it on, and we can ask her to turn that light on. So I'm gonna go, Alexa, turn light on.
Okay.
As you can see, she says okay. She recognized what I wanted to say. I said turn the light on, and the light is turned on, as you can see here. I can also turn the light off, of course. Alexa, turn light off. You can simply call her name, and she's gonna turn off the light, as you can see here. It's very simple, just a simple step-by-step procedure to add any device you want to control, and then of course correctly use the reference here so she will know what to do with the device once you added it. So this will be the end of the webinar, of the presentation type. So if you do have any questions, we will answer them now. Thank you for your patience, and Matisse will take over from here.
Hello, my name is Matit, so I would like to ask you if you have any questions, please write them down, and I will try to answer them. Please write the questions to the group chat. Okay, first question I will answer is it possible to communicate between two jigsaws over TCP? Yes, it's possible. You can create our basic driver like this, and the same thing you do on the other jigsaw, and then you just select the connection type to TCP, and then you can issue your commands and send your own commands over the TCP. And then one is the receiver and one is the transmitter. The second question is, can you use any name for the device? I guess this is the question is for the Alexa. Yes, as long as it is English name, you can use it. You can use any name as you want. Next question is what to do if there is no parameters in ZWave devices. For example, if you don't have the parameters listed here in the parameter group table, then you can check your manual, your device manual, where you can see which parameters your device has, and then you just click add, enter the name of the parameter, the parameter number, and the value you want to set, and then you can also set the default value, the description, and if you have more parameters with descriptions, then you can also add values here and then write a description. For example, LED on, this is 1, 2, and I don't know, something else. And again, and then you just click OK, and your parameter is saved here. We used Aeon Labs USB stick for ZWave in our webinar, but any USB stick should work, which is compatible with ZWave standard. There is also a question that there were problems with feedback from the light, which was on ZWave. If you don't get the feedback, first what you need to do is to check if your controller is under right association group of the specific device, because every device is sending statuses on a specific association group, and controller needs to be included in that group if you want to get the statuses. What accessories items are necessary to start a ZWave project except for CC controller and ZWave devices? Actually, you can just buy our Jigsaw ZWave and ZWave devices, and you can immediately start working on your ZWave project. ZWave Plus devices. ZWave Plus devices are also supported in bOS. is it possible to re-include ZWave devices and not to delete the rest of the configuration? If you want to exclude the specific device, of course you can click exclusion button here, and then the same procedure as with the inclusion. You press the button or something on the specific device, and then the device is excluded from your ZWave network. And if you want to include it again, you have to do the inclusion process again, but it's not able. You're not able to save the configuration yet. For example, the parameters and association groups and stuff like that. If I go back to a question about communication between two jigsaws, right now the only possibility to connect both of them is via basic driver, but in the next version of bOS we will also implement like master slave configuration, where you will be able to connect more bOS controllers with one. Uh, Again, the question about the configuration after the exclusion of the ZWave device. Now the tasks remain. For example, if I exclude a specific device that it's linked to some tasks, of course, for example, let me check this one. Yeah, this one is linked to this task here, sensor light. And if I would exclude this device, I would get an error here. But the task will stay, just that there will be error that this device doesn't exist anymore. But if you will re-include it back to the ZWave and name it like it was before, it will be, everything will be connected back again like it was before. So now it's back, and as you see, the error also disappeared. So also the task is working again. For Alexa integration, you need Amazon device, Echo Dot, or any Alexa supported device, and our bOS skill in Amazon Alexa store, and bOS, and then you can control your appliances with Alexa. manual polling of ZWave devices is possible via this function here, request values. You can also make a program. For example, when my configuration is started, so my bOS is started, I want to run my function to, for example, okay, request value for, I don't know, luminance. And every time now when my bOS will start it, I will request my multi-level sensor to send me a luminance value, and it will be updated as soon as bOS is started. But you have to be careful here to not to overload the ZWave network, because if you put a lot of devices here, a lot of requests will be sent to the ZWave network, and the ZWave network will be overwhelmed with the requests. So it's recommended to put some delays between separate requests. For example, half a second delay, and then you can put another request value, for example, for temperature. Okay, I guess this is all. Oh, there is another. Displaying error on warning message for customer on login to app or web. Is it something like this possible, like you have with free version of bOS? No, the pop-up message um, for custom warnings or custom errors is not possible, but you have alerts here under events, and you can send alerts or messages here. For example, you can send a log message to the whole building, to whole users. For example, from administrator, and messages, I don't know, no power today from and, and the event is shown here in the building. And also if you send an alert to the user, for example, water leakage, you see here that there is a new message in your log, and you will see the alert here. There is another question. Is it possible to set more than one password on window, or is it only one in theme? Like one for customer, but one for service that's able to access other info than customer. I think that you mean pin number for the panel or for the button. No, it's only possible uh, to set one pin number to unlock all the panels. So every panel has the same pin then. And also, for example, you can lock every button with the same thing. Okay, here under show confirmation, you can select pin code for every button separately. So what you could do is you can create a sub panel and then you could link I mean, you could set a pin code for a sub panel, for example, like this. And I will just name this sub panel like this. And now when you would want to go to the sub panel, you cannot see it here in the menu below because it is a sub panel. And when you would want to go to the sub panel, you would have to click here and enter the pin to go to the sub panel. And this is how you can solve the problem with the pin if you want to lock separate panels. Okay, I would like to thank you now for your attention. And if you have any other questions, you can visit our forum or use our manual. And if it's a more advanced question or issue, you can also open a ticket on our webpage. Thank you. Bye.